Welcome back to Animation 1, AAD376, lecture number 2. Mannequin illustrations as the foundations of character animation. I'm Patrick Quickty, and thanks for coming along on this ride for this one. Yes, actually this is the second time I've done this. My computer, I actually just did it as a sound recording the first time, and so I have to do an hour and a half all over again. So here we go. All right. So there are many types of animation. Character-based, abstract, narrative, but you know, in a lot of animation there's usually some sort of connection, is some sort of character that we have a connection with, that emotional bond, a protagonist, all of these sorts of things. It's kind of our focus of our identifying with the story. It's our point of emotional content. But whether it's fantastic or whether it's a cat, or with me it's always a cat. Regardless, or in anime, you can see we have all these figures. And by the way, I love anime and I love cats. So as we can see in the last frame, what we really kind of need as the beginning of what we do with this whole thing is a knowledge of figurative illustration. And what's that mean? We need to basically have something that resembles a character, and the foundation of this is kind of like basically the biped skeleton, what they call the mannequin. And this is really the beginning of figurative drawing. And if we weren't online and we were in the classroom, we have a number of wooden and plastic mannequins, but we're going to do this from the formula, which isn't too bad. And there's two ways to do this, and we're going to do a male figure today. And there's two ways to do this. There's what they call the 8 division, the 8 head height one, and then there's the 7 head height one. And I'm going to do a front-facing one, a side-facing one, and then a sitting one for the 7 and the 8. So as we can see here, we can see that the head is usually about 1 head high, because we're talking about heads. So is the head going to be 2 heads high? Sometimes, and that's tomorrow. So, but male shoulders are usually about 2 heads wide. An upper arm is each section of the arm is usually about 1.5 heads. Upper torso is usually about, it fills out down to 3 heads. The hips are basically roughly about 1 head high. And then what happens is that the legs, it kind of depends. So what happens is that if you're at 7 heads, see at 8 heads, the hips go about the middle of 4. And at 7 heads, the hips go at the bottom of 4. So, this is where things kind of even out. So as you can see, the leg segments are basically still 2 heads. But you can see that there's half of a head on the 8 head version that goes into the feet. So we'll do both. It's fine. So we'll do a standing and sitting male. And you can see here the dimensions on a female. And the thing is that some of you, like last semester, I had some amazing artists who already have like this amazing anime style. They're fantastic at figures. They're, they really don't need this. But some of you have never done this. And so we're just getting everybody on the same page. So it's cool. Don't worry about it. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go through and do my version of a mannequin of a standing front and side, and then sitting male with a 7 and 8 head format. So, and this is kind of how it works. So going from the mannequin, you get your basic gesture down. And this is something that's going to be kind of interesting tomorrow when we start working on mannequins and starting to match them to figures. And since this is summer, that's about as far as we're going to go. And I hope that you keep going with it because we'll start getting into walk cycles. Because we only have basically 4.5 weeks to get through an entire semester. So as you can see here you have a ball and joint mannequin. And what I do is that then I also put bounding boxes over to kind of flesh out the body of the mannequin, which kind of is over here in number 2. And then, of course, then you start erasing some things and start making it more like a figure, put some clothes on it, and, you know, then it gets all done. So that's kind of where we're at. So what we're going to do here is we're basically going to get up to number 2. And that's about as far as we're going to go. We'll get into more detailed stuff in animation 2. But at least we'll get this far. So, let's do this. Okay, so here's our basic file. And here's our body proportions, and we can see where all of this is. And I kind of went over what the dimensions were in the first place. So why don't we just do this, right? So this is Illustrator. You can use Procreate. You can use Photoshop. You can do whatever you want. But the one thing that I hope you see in this case is the fact that, sorry, I got to quit some things. Okay, so what I hope you see is the fact that I'm going to do it a little bit different, but you can see kind of the basics and how it all works out. So also, I hope you can see that when I do this in Illustrator, it's going to, I'm going to work really efficiently in some places. I'm going to complete 6 mannequins in probably under an hour and 15 minutes. So get ready. It's kind of like when I did that silhouette animation in like 1 minute silhouette animation in about 12 hours. Same thing. So let's get started. So remember, 1 head height. By the way, I've got no fill. I've got 1 point black. I think no fill, black stroke, 1 point black, not a problem. So what I'm going to do is that just for the head, right, 1 head high. Neck is usually about 1/3 of a head high. And then Remember, as it said, the torso is usually about 2 heads wide. And the great thing about using Illustrator is that it just lets you center things up so easy. So the other thing that I'm going to do is that we do this point by point. I'm also going to do that. And then I'm going to make another rectangle. Do the pelvis, and just a tiny bit off, but let's not worry about it too much. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So we've got a head and a torso and all that sort of thing put together. So you know, am I doing a 7? Let me see here. Let me take a look. Yep. Okay. Yeah, not a problem. Okay, it's just that the legs are longer in an 8 than a 7. So in that method. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to make hip joints that are just about half the width of the pelvis, right? And I'll actually expand these just a tiny bit so that they are half the width. Okay. And then take the size down a bit. And remember, Illustrator lets you just line everything else, line everything up nice and neat. And you can take it down just a bit more. And you know what? This is going to be our those are going to be our ankles and also our elbows. The other kind of cool thing that I like to do with these things is that I like to repeat structures. So to me, the knee is about the size of the shoulder. So if you think about this and you work with it, you can make things go really fast. So see here? And actually, if I was going to do this even quicker, what I could do is that I could just draw one whole side and then flip it, but I'm not going to be that efficient. So because actually I've been doing this enough tonight where I think I can just basically pop out these illustrations just easy. Okay, and then I'm actually going to make the wrist a little bit smaller and put it down here on the hip. And you know, you can play with that. You can play with where it is. I'm going to have the center line of the wrist at the center line of the hip. So none of these things are completely exact, but check that out. That's already kind of halfway awesome. So, by the way, before we go and put everything together, put the skeleton in and draw the outlines, guess what I'm going to do? Can you guess? What I'm going to do is that I'm going to go and I'm going to copy all these elements, squash them a little bit, and that's going to be my side view. So, because guess what? I've already drawn this stuff. I don't need to draw it again, right? Who cares? Okay. Look at this. Oh, Professor, it's hard. No, it's not hard. You just gotta know how to streamline your workflow. That's it. Being efficient is everything. If there's a way that you can copy something and get it taken care of, then do it. Okay, and you know what? One thing I like to do a little bit, I like to take and put a little bit of realism in the mannequin. You know, it's like have the legs bent a little bit. You know, have your elbows bent, right? And let's just bring this forward a little bit. And actually, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to actually do a couple of things. I'm going to bring the shoulders forward, and I'm going to just like maybe and then I'm also going to put in an extra node so that our character has kind of a good physique. Okay, so we've got that. And then I'm going to oh, wait a second. What did I just do? That's crazy. What happened with that? Oh, I used direct selection. I didn't use sorry. Okay. And then okay. And actually, I'm going to bring this down just a little bit, just to make the proportions a little bit better. I'm eyeballing this. So So what we did, we blocked this in, we put the joints in. So what I'm going to do next is that then I'm going to draw the skeleton, which is just basically putting center lines between all of the dots. Next thing I'm going to do then is that then I will draw lines around the outsides, blocking everything in, then I'll draw the hands and feet. Here we go. So that's it. So anchor point. Here we go. That's that. Actually, you know what? Let's get really efficient, shall we? All right. And guess what? I do that wrong. So professor's got to go and fix his work. Oh, come on, Willa. Right, okay, good. Zoom back. Can it? Let's finish up. Not being efficient. I should have done that all in one stroke. I got to go back here and back here. Okay. That's that. Let's go put this in over here. You know what? More efficiency. And then not being efficient. And then let's just block the rest of this in. All right. So what's left? Hands, feet, outlines of the arms and legs. Pen tool. And then, you know what? Here's something that if you're doing a large joint and it's bending a lot, I usually can't do it in one line. Just because, or you can, you know, it's if you do the chamfering dot, like I just did. So, see, you know, like this thing, chamfering dot. You know, you can do that, but I usually like to, for extreme joint curves, I usually like to use 2 segments. And okay. And then let's see. I'm just going to make a hand. Not that pretty. And make a foot. And it's saying, voila, is it that simple? Yep, sure is. And I'm just going to flesh out the rest of this guy. And see, this is a little bit of a problem when you have a lot of control nodes around each other. It's kind of hard to get everything exact, but that's all right. And by the way, more efficiency. And if I were really efficiency, I'd just go and copy and paste, but I'm not going to do that. Because this is already pretty gosh darn fast. And then let's just finish up this. And once again, for these kind of sharp bends, I like to use 2 segments. And then once again, I'll just use a little perspective. And there we go. Okay. Hands on this dude. I'm just going to, in this case, I'll just probably have them just come in. And I'm wondering, no, it's all connected. Okay, forget that. And then I'll just do the same thing, bring it down about the same amount, bring it up, and then just kind of like bevel it out. And there you go. About 95% perfect. So that's it. Okay, so you know what? We're talking about the seated figure now. Guess what? You've done the side view. You've made half of it, right? Come on. So let's just pick out the chunks, because we like chunks. Chunks are good. And look what I'm doing here. It's half done. Isn't that great? I bet half of you in the class are just going, what did he just do? I said, basically, I probably took 20 minutes off of your work time. And the question is, can he do that? Sure he can. Absolutely. And actually, the one thing I'm going to do is that I'm just going to do just a couple little minor things for just to make it a little classier. Because, you know, we're all about being classy, aren't we? So, and then you know, because we lean over a little bit when we're sitting, you know. Oh, what am I doing? I'm moving a control point. What am I doing? Come on. Okay. All right. So let's take a knee. And it usually goes up about 1.5, just like everything else. And then let's take the hip. And the interesting thing is that actually, if you look at a skeleton, which, by the way, one thing I think we're going to try to get for school next year, I think we're going to try to get, I want a real one, but I don't think they'll let us have one. But anyway, so, but we can get a replica, which is almost as fun. But actually, I don't think so. I think it'd be a lot more fun to have a real skeleton. But that's neither here nor there. And then, but we can, you know, we just kind of work from all these things, you know. And then, look what just happened. In like 5 minutes, it's all here. Check this out. So let's draw a skeleton. And basically, just because it's bent, I'm going to bend it a bit. And more efficiency in motion. Look at that. Okay, and then the next thing we do, put the skeleton in for the arm. And then, what's left, right? Now that's almost a pun, isn't it? What's left, right? Anyway, I'm joking too much. I need to get to work. Okay, yellow. All right, so there's that arm. And remember, this is kind of a sharp turn. So I'm going to make it into 2 pieces. And same thing with this. Actually, yep. Make that 1 piece, which, by the way, is a fantastic anime show. And it's been on for forever, and it is like really, I cannot believe they have gone so long with that show. All right. And got a couple funky little bits here, but I'm going to make my foot. It's probably too long. That's not too bad. And then let's make our hand. Which is a little bit much, but you know, it's not too bad, right? I think you agree. Look at this. Probably in about 30 minutes, I just went, ba-boom, done. Okay, halas. So what's happening here, what we did is that we blocked in, we blocked in a ball and line skeleton, and then we blocked it in and just put some hands and feet on it, and that's done. So that's not too bad. I only have like maybe one place that really bugs me. I'll just fix this really quick. Okay, not too bad. This is like 95 work for me. So, all right. So let's go over and do this. You're going like, what? We're going to do this again? Yep. We're going to do the 7 line. And a lot of this really just has to do with one thing. It just really has to do with the proportion of where the hips go. And remember, there are all these ways to make little shortcuts, so it isn't going to take that long. So there we go. And for a 7, I kind of like to have the head just a little bit bigger. I usually like to have it like maybe 1 and like 1/10. And then once again, make the neck about 1/3. Upper torso about 2 wide. And then just move it around a little bit. Let Illustrator do the work for you. And then take the Yep. And then basically just do the same thing with that bottom torso. And the cool thing about this is that, and actually, I'm going to mess around with it just a little bit. I'm going to make it just a little bit longer. Because you know what? I've been doing this longer than half of you have. And I'm going to just kind of do that. And then let me straighten out all this. Okay, so we've got a torso and a head. I think what I want to do before we copy things over to the for the side view, let me make some shoulders. By the way, in your teaching materials, I've also put in some videos of Maru the cat, who's a Scottish fold in Japan, who's super funny. So you may think that it's not related, and I say don't take it serious, but the thing is that if you watch Maru move, you know, if you watch any living being move, you know, if you're really an animator, you're like watching that cat saying, okay, how can I do this? You know? That's what we do. We watch animations and we watch cats. And then actually I'm going to make this elbow a little bit shorter. And so in this case, I'm taking the elbow and making it about, I'm making the upper arm and lower arm about a head's length. And you know what was really cool about just what happened? Illustrator told me that I was an equal distance away. That was pretty cool. All right. So, and then let's come in here and just block in the hips. Remember, on the 7 height, the hips, center of the hips are at even with the bottom of the pelvis. So, and we've kind of got a slim hipped kind of guy, so that's all right. And let's make a knee. Actually, I got this thing no longer round. I want to keep it round. So, okay. And I was being quiet because I was actually holding my breath when I did that. So, actually, when I draw with a mouse, sometimes I really do hold my breath. It's kind of like what calligraphers do. You know, a lot of the times, you know, if they're doing really fine work, they're holding their breath. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the wrist ball, and I'll just put it down here. So you notice that it's really kind of the same thing. But okay, so before I put my skeleton in, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to set us up for our side pose by selecting the neck, head, shoulder, upper torso, elbow, pelvis, hip, knee, and one ankle. And I bet I heard one of you say, did he just do that? He says, yeah, he did. He sure did. And so it is, we just kind of squash it in, And see, that's all cool. We move the head so it's forward in the head just a little bit. Get the neck in there. And I'm just going to do a couple things. I'm going to do some fancy stuff, you know? And right, got it. Okay, so let's bring the elbow in. And you know what? I'll leave the hand out. I'll leave the hand out. That's okay. And then the other thing that I really like to do, so let's see here. The other couple things you need to do with side pose. You need to bring hip in a little bit. Take the knee out a little bit. And then bring this back. Okay. So, skeleton. Witness the fitness. All right. So, let's do the center line. And then let's do the arm line. And I can hear one of you saying, did he really do it that fast? And yes, he did. And actually, just because I want to do it this way, I'm just going to draw all the skeleton in all of the figures. And just get it done. Okay. That's that one done. And the cool thing is, because the bottom of the hips is through the joints of the hips, that's fine. And watch what I do. So up, around, over, down, we're done. Okay. So also remember one other thing. And remember that when you do a side view, you are half done with your sitting pose, which is pretty awesome. Except for the fact that except for a couple things. Really, kind of what you need to do is that since you're sitting on the ground, and you need a hip, right? Yeah, you need a hip. You definitely need to have your you know what, flat to the ground. And actually, your hip joint goes a little bit forward because that's how we're built. And then your knee goes 1.5 heads up. And then your foot goes back right down on the ground. And let's see here. How did I do the other one? Did I have the hand going back? Okay. You know what? We're going to do this different. Right? Boom. Guess what? We've got a forward lean now instead of a backward lean. So, I'll put the skeleton in on this one. And then let's do the arm. Come up from the wrist. All right. Let's connect it all. Okay. Next, of course, what I will do is that, can I do this? Did I do it right? Yes, I did. That's awesome. And actually, if I really wanted to get lazy, remember that that line could probably go right across my center hip line. Can I do that? I think I can. Well, I could have done that, but that's kind of crazy, right? Okay. Inner elbow stuff. I didn't do that right. I got to fix it. And then in this case, I'm going to do 2 lines. I'm going to have to fix a few things. All right. And then that's crazy. We're getting close to being done. And it's not, actually I did it a lot faster than I did the last time. Okay. So that's all there. That's that. And by the way, I'm not that good at Illustrator. I'm really not. For years and years and years, I used CorelDRAW. And if you ever find any of the, like CorelDRAW is like version 19 or something like that. If you find like the old CorelDRAW Unleashed version 5 or 6 books, and like all the CorelDRAW and the cool CorelDRAW artist books and that sort of thing. I'm in most of those from like CorelDRAW 4 to CorelDRAW 7. So and I just used to love that program a lot. But Illustrator is just the it's just kind of the industry standard, and you kind of have to use it. By the way, using the laser cutter, you're still using CorelDRAW, so voila, That's, what? That's actually cool. That actually looks more like a leg. I'm gonna keep that. Sometimes I like my mistakes. And you know what's really funny? I made the same mistake at the bottom of that leg as I did with the other one, and that's kind of, it's just kind of dumb, but that's what happens sometimes. Okay, and then I'm just gonna fix a couple of these things here. Let's see. Yep. And then nudge that into place. Nudge that into place. Okay. In America, we have a saying called "good enough for government work." So you get what I mean. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to rough in a hand. Has to be really rough. Rough in a foot. Easy feet. You can tell me, I can, you can quote me on that one. I do easy feet. So, all right. And in this case, and is this, is this connected to anything? I don't think it is. Nah, okay. Let me see if I can. There we go. Come on, it's getting late. I want to cheat. All right. So, I mean, with things that have similar proportions and that have symmetry, remember, you can just copy and paste a lot of stuff, right? So this is great. And then I'll just rough in some hands and feet. I'll rough in some hands. Got that one. And there we go. And then I'll just flip that. Nudge it into place. And look at that. We are pretty much done. I'm going to fix this. Oh, come on. See, little things like this drive me absolutely crazy because I'm like a crazy art director. And what is it with this? Not quite even. Okay. There are just times in which you can only be so OCD. All right. So guess what? Look at that. So let's go here. Human body proportions. Stick figures. Block it in. Here's an 8-head one. And here's the 7-head. Oh, wait a second. I don't have any hands and feet on the on this guy. And that's a little clunky, but who cares? Okay. That's that. Okay. So I would probably maybe take another 10, 15 minutes and tweak things around, get things perfect. But this is the general idea. And so what we have done now is that we've done a set of mannequin drawings, which is pretty awesome. And then with 7-head dimensions and 8-head proportions. So that's it. Let's go back to Photoshop just for a second. So assignment for next class, I'm going to extend this until for another day. Do standing front and side. Sitting for 7 and 8. I gave you a Illustrator file that is exactly what I worked from. Submit as an Acrobat file, PDF. That's 15% of your grade. And then also make sure that your naming is exactly as I put there. AAD376, you can take the space out. P1, 1, name, ID. That's also 15 points. The easiest 30 points of your grade. So Wednesday, and what we're going to go over tomorrow is that we're going to take 3 characters from animation, sketch mannequins from them. And then the other thing is that I'm going to have you do 5 different proportions. We're going to take the 8 line. We're going to take 7 line, and because I've already got that drawn out in Illustrator, and I'm going to talk to you about making 5 different mannequins with different proportions. Because what happens here that's really kind of cool is that, first of all, you've got the structure. You have that, and I'll show you in the next slide. You start playing with the skeleton and start manipulating it, and that creates things like pride and depression and joy and anger. And then the other thing is that the proportions of the character, if you think about Toy Story, Mr. Potato Head is like, his head's 5 heads high because he's Mr. Potato Head. He's all Mr. Potato Head. And then his feet are only like 1 high, and his arms are only like, maybe a head or a head and a half long. And then he's got his hat. So that's kind of the thing there. So tomorrow, let's think about how we can move structures around to give life to a character, and that's kind of where we're at. Let's see, am I done? Yeah, I am. So, all right. So thanks for hanging out with me. I hope this was kind of cool. And then tomorrow we get into start working with perspective and, characterizing a mannequin and working with some dimensions. And thanks a lot, and I will see you tomorrow. Thanks.